Good evening, Vijay. Thank you for being with us to share your insights on RBI's focus on emerging markets. To begin with, we would like to understand what is the most critical aspect when it comes to marketing these high-end automotive software products in emerging markets.
So there are a couple of differences between emerging market and the developed market. One such difference would be the pressure on cost, or making a product or a feature available at the lowest possible cost. The other would be a misuse or an overuse of any component, any machine, any
so when
solution
you say
that is
misuse,
provided.
exactly like what?
Overuse. For example, if you see some of the trucks, the way they are driven, or I can give you a couple of examples, with a load which is extending so that the truck is actually driving on one inclined angle for most of its journey because it has more load than what is stipulated for a truck in a situation like that. Or when we get a specification saying the engine control unit will be in driver's cabin, the understanding from a mindset of an engineer that it does not see water. But if you see some of these vehicles driven with only chassis, because the plant of chassis is somewhere else and the body is somewhere else, they can encounter any kind of rain. And so it's a kind of over or a misuse to the specification. And there are many examples of this kind where we expect the lifespan to be higher, we expect the mileage of a vehicle eventually to be higher. At the same time, we want to have a lesser cost, so to speak. So these are some unique requirements from this market. But essentially, software helps this overall. So for example, if I had a hardware to software, now let's talk of engine controls, because that's what we are dealing with in this case study. So in engine controls, the more I try to standardize hardware, which will mean I eliminate too much of precision manufacturing, because I have a standardized hardware which I use for variant 1, variant 2, variant 3, or OEM 1, OEM 2, OEM 3. Then what I'm trying to do here is, with a standardization, I'm trying to achieve A, lower cost, B, eliminate some precision requirements that I may have, and C, eliminate the component itself. So that I don't have to depend on components' life to the longevity of the engine control, in theory. So in theory, if I had a hardware which was so standard that I simply use it for everything, and I make the variants through software, if I make the features through software. And that's what is happening right now. So right now, engineering is more tending towards doing whole of mathematics, whole of complications, whole of sophistication in software, and commoditizing, standardizing hardware. And that essentially helps what the emerging market needs, which is, I will, so to speak, misuse or overuse the stuff because it's anyway software. And I would expect it to live longer because it's not a component which is going to fail. So the software will live longer.
So actually it helps these markets, right?
And essentially you are not marketing this, you are marketing the misuse, overuse, you are marketing the low cost, you are marketing something else. So end user is not going to see the difference between what came in hardware versus what came in software. But the heavy software usage, as you asked, actually helps the end result that is expected of such a product.
So to move on, we understand that Engineering Emerging Markets Department at RBI has been implementing a lot of cost reduction measures to satisfy the norms of what we call as frugally engineered product. So is there something with respect to engineering, say in terms of either training or skills or domain kind of a knowledge, that you as the top management at RBI, you think that if it can help or augment the department to achieve their targets faster, something that you need to do?
I think, I mean, sort of training or a mindset change can definitely help. What helps us being in India is to understand what is a 1 euro cent cost and how much that is compared to if I'm in Germany, and if I'm born and brought up as a German, I would look at ppm levels of quality, because that becomes important as a German mindset. From an Indian mindset, 1 cent cost or a 2 cent cost is actually a high cost. So that is given, and that's a good part. But what is not so good is the system understanding. So if I have a system understanding, then can I question the existence of some of the components which were, say, 17 versions back introduced in such an engine control unit, let's say. So engine control unit version 1 had a sensor of some sorts. And at that time you had a microcontroller which had only so much capability. Today's microcontroller can do a lot more in terms of mathematics, in terms of memory, in terms of speed of calculation and so on. But most likely nobody is asking the fundamental question now, can I eliminate the sensor and do that math inside the memory real time and save the cost of few cents of that sensor? Now, how can an Indian engineer ask this? While he understands the cost equation, he doesn't understand necessarily the dependence in a holistic system perspective, dependence of that sensor to my calculation. Because I may be doing only one bit of coding or one bit of computation and I'm not looking at the overall. So what will help really is the system understanding. And what will help really is the understanding of a little bit of business mind. So for profit and loss. So for instance, a cent of cost on an engine control, and if I'm selling few millions of those engine controls, that cent actually turns into so many millions of dollars.
So basically an engineer should be exposed to more of project management kind of understanding in
system understanding, business understanding.
Okay.
This would help on top of an existing Indian mindset, because which is already worrying about few cents of cost, which is the good news. So if I'm in Germany, this becomes even more difficult.
But like, do you have any plans, or is there something that's already started at RBI to, help this process or bring in this kind of an understanding?
Especially for emerging market department that you talked about, yes.
Okay.
So for example, they are the ones who would have lesser numbers of teams for delivering a project. They are the ones who would be able to understand the system better than a very large project coming from a Western world. So in that specific department, there are these system level understanding trainings which are available definitely. And that is an important aspect. On the aspect of business, I think I will have to look back, understanding business and
Okay, to move on, while putting this case together, we observed that all three divisions of Robert Bosch in India, that is RBIN, the Automotive Software Manufacturing Unit RBEI, and RBEI, they kind of interact at various stages to bring these frugally engineered products to the market. Since, all of them have their targets, timelines for their targets again are defined differently. Do you see that in future a different kind of a reporting structure is needed, or for that matter, any other kind of a strategy that management would or could adopt to help these products reach the market quickly?
Yeah, this is a very, very good question, because what is happening in the automotive industry, coming from the very good expression of you can buy a car as long as it is black. I mean, from those times to now, so you could have very little variants and very few types of cars available on the road. I mean, I remember as a child there were only 2 types of cars sold in India, and maybe in few millions. So when you're making a machine or any kind of manufacturing to a mass production versus when you are bringing multiple variants, model year changes, feature changes from A version to higher price version and variant of the vehicle, there's a difference already in the market from what it used to be, let's say, even 20-25 years ago. Now, to cope up to this difference, the good thing we can learn is from a software industry. Software industry already looks at organizations which are made for a project, and they're disintegrated as soon as the project is over. They are made for another project. So the moment you engineer this for a project, and not only engineer, the example that you gave was basically a sales organization, engineering organization, and a manufacturing organization. Now, if you can put the team together as a project, there is a project for OEM A for this specific product that goes out. If we can make it project kind of an organization, and the goals are taken as projects, the team works for the duration of the project, and then it's out and disintegrated into another project. This will help, and this is already happening as we speak, even for the examples, the company names that you said of Bosch companies in India. We are looking at how to bring them in the project structures. They are intuitively happening. Will that happen as an overall industry change? maybe it's just a time to come.
Okay.
Because we are having multiple variants, multiple projects for the same revenue today.
Okay.
So $1 billion maybe was achieved in one vehicle earlier. Today you need several variants of that vehicle to get to that kind of revenue. So as an industry itself, it will change to the project orientation, so to speak, from a software industry example.
Okay. And to move on to a bigger picture, what do you think that this industry of automotive software products, or how do you think rather it should evolve to draw synergies from the companies within the industry and also from the automobile manufacturers in order to meet the unique demands that the emerging markets have?
This is now my personal view, now because it's a kind of futuristic or a dream, what could be a dream. So my view there is our dependence on what technology comes to India typically has been always a laggard. I mean, we follow somebody else when the technology comes elsewhere first. And then we try to look at, as we explained in the first question, how to make it live more, maybe live longer or live for the size or overuse of it, and have lower cost. Instead of doing it that way, why don't we flip it and say, what do we need for India? And how do we bring that up with the existing technologies, and especially, as I said, with heavy software, so the cost actually comes down. And with the latest technology available, so in fact, to bring down the cost, you have to use the latest technology. So in electronics, it's already very beautiful. When you go to the higher version of technologies, the costs come down. The microcontroller cost of today's versus the power it has on both sides. It has more power and lesser cost than 20 years ago. So it's actually true when we talk of any electronic product that we should look at what India needs as the consortium of companies and bring them for our need as a solution, because we have the possibilities. Then wait for a development to happen. And I can talk of examples of, let's say, augmented reality in the vehicles. Can we bring it to a specific use of Indian requirement, then wait for somebody else to bring it in first, and then look at how can we bring it in? Or 360-degree view of the car as the car gets driven is probably far more important from a safety angle in India than elsewhere from India. And this could be something that India can bring in first, where technology exists. And as I said, the cost actually comes down.
So basically you're saying that look at the environment for which the product needs to be manufactured. For which
the product will get used.
Then manufacture it accordingly.
Yes. Right? And then develop this content of software and hardware for that need.
Okay. Thank you so much once again, and I'm sure with these kind of activities happening at RBEI, I as an end customer probably will have some kind of a gain over a period of time.
Absolutely. You can drive a Porsche sound without the Porsche cost, maybe. I don't know. Tata Nano cost.
Thanks, Satan Vijay.
Thank you. Thank you so
Bye-bye.
much. Thanks. Thank you very much.